I bet you didn't know that historical reenactment has a long history that continues into today. It's an educational and fun way to honor, remember, and commemorate an event or person. Living history reenactors all have their reasons why they started and why they think it's important. Here at Family Tree Nuts, we recently asked these questions to several experts in this field. This video showcases those interviews. I hope you enjoy each person's insight as much as I enjoyed talking with them. All right, let's go check it out.
Hello, my name is Ken Hill. I live down in Columbia, Kentucky, and I've been involved in living history, reenactments, trekking, pretty much anything that has a flintlock or history in it for about the last 13 years, I think. Today, just kind of whoever they ask me to be. Sometimes I portray Benjamin Logan for Logan Station. So sometimes I bring Captain Logan over to the fort here for the battle and for some of the parley that'll happen between the settlers and the natives out here. But kind of whoever they ask me to be, I'll try to pull that off. I think living history is important because, well, for all history is important. We have to know where we came from. My son is out here this weekend with me, and he'll soon be 18, but he's had the benefit of growing up in this and just absorbing it. But he and I have gone into schools for the last 10 or so years, and I'm amazed at how little, unfortunately, a lot of our children know about their local history. When you talk about the early expansion out of the colonies, and I didn't really realize this until I really got into this, this is where the cool stuff happened. Kentucky is such a cool place, and so much of that is being lost or just kind of forgotten or not deemed as important anymore, I think. And these kind of events get some youngins out here, and unlike somebody showing up and talking to you or giving you a speech, out here, you know, I let the kids touch this gun, and they can pet the horses that we bring, and you know, they can pick up the stuff off of these blankets around them, and I think it gives them a better understanding of what this life really was about, because you can actually touch it. I got started in reenactment kind of by chance. I was invited by a guy that I'd known for years, didn't know he was even involved in this, what I call kind of the long rifle culture. He invited me to a little private camp that he had. There's probably a dozen guys there. He wanted a friend and I to actually come and play guitar, play a few songs, just to entertain them in the evening. And I saw these guys in these cool clothes, and they were shooting these neat flintlock rifles, and you know, having grown up watching Fess Parker on TV and stuff, and I literally didn't know guys got together and did this, and I was just in awe of it. And the next year we were invited to actually participate, and a friend and I put together as good a outfit as we could, and I bought a flintlock rifle, and one thing led to another, and you know, there's you know, that first it just started, and it does with a lot of folks. It was just like a little private camp and a shoot. A lot of this hobby begins around the guns, competitions, and I still do a lot of competition flintlock shooting. But from that, once I felt like I had enough stuff together, I went to Fort Boonesboro. That was my first reenactment. Cool place. First time I'd ever been there, literally. Hadn't gone there as a child, had always heard of it, so the first time I was there, I was dressed and participating. And you know, there's many other facets of this hobby as well. I do private events, I do historical trekking events where one or two of us will get in a canoe or just head off into the woods with what we can pack and a rifle, and we'll stay for 2 or 3 days, and we don't bring anything with us that wasn't available in that time period. I've done that numerous times, and I do a lot of whenever asked, I go to schools and I bring my wares and teach a little Kentucky history, kind of my style, to the kids in our Kentucky schools. Well, one thing I'd say, that I think this is the nicest day we've ever had at this one. You know, most of us have busy other lives, and I do as well. So I'm not sure, depending on the schedule. We usually look forward to Boonesboro in the fall. I think the Painted Stone Settlers are going to be in September. I hope I've never made that one. I love Miss Kathy Cummins. Hopefully get to make that one as well this year. But otherwise, we're just looking to have a good weekend out here today.
Hello, my name is Bart Kane. I'm from Berea, Kentucky. Been reenacting for nearly 40 years. Got started in the hobby back then, probably as an offshoot of muzzleloading deer season, which came into Kentucky. And then the interest in the historical part of it came along. And like many of my contemporaries, got started out as Western mountain men. We were wearing a lot of buckskin and fringe and beads and things. And then somewhere along the line it occurred to us, that's not where we're from. We're not from the Rocky Mountains, we're from the Appalachians. So our interest in history more turned to Daniel Boone, James Harrod, and things that happened here in Kentucky about the time of the Revolution. And most of the reenactors, I think, have a very keen interest in that time period specifically because the founding of our country happened at that time. And there's little known aspects of the history that reenactors delve into that most of the general public doesn't. And so you have to have that true interest of trying to find out what happened then, how did people live, how did they survive, because we don't have to do that so much today. And most of us reenactors do it for short periods of time, not for an extended period of time. Most of us don't live like this. So we go to a lot of these events where we can share some of that knowledge. We can enjoy our friends who also have the same interest, and it becomes a lifestyle to a degree, but you separate that from your everyday life as well. I think that our history is important because if we don't understand it and recognize it, we're doomed to repeat it. And there's aspects of our history we don't want to see happen again, so we have to learn from that. It's a learning experience, and all of us learn from what happens in our lifetime, but if we can learn what happened from 200 years ago, our knowledge of how do we handle situations, how do we relate to people, just becomes much greater. The hardships that were endured at that time, we can't imagine. We try to put ourselves in those shoes, but in reality, we can't be there. It don't matter how much we dress up and do this, we're not faced with the same hardships that they were. All we can do is maybe get a little better grasp and understanding of that. And I think it's important that we do that, especially our younger folks, so they understand where they came from. Where did we come from? How did we get here to where we are today? And unless we have that understanding of history, we'll never know that. So it's a kind of an ongoing thing too. All of us that do this, we learn things every day that we didn't know before, just from other folks. Hey, I read this, I studied this, I did some research and found out this, and it's like, wow, I didn't know that. And I've been doing this for years. But you want to keep learning, keep experiencing. It's the best part of life.
Okay, my name is Vernon Goss. I live in Nicholasville, Kentucky. I started reenacting about 5-6 years ago. Kind of got into this hobby, and I've enjoyed it ever since. I got started in reenacting pretty much through my mother. As a young child, she was what I call a Boone historian, I guess. She read books and knew all the history and kind of sparked our interest, and just living where we live here in central Kentucky, we're in just a historic triangle here with Fort Harrod, Fort Boonesboro, Logan's. All these forts are very important and need to be preserved. History is important to me because I just like to see an accurate portrayal of it, so it's not made up, it's not Hollywood. Reading these guys' journals, and stuff 200 some years ago or whatever, why would they lie about something, So we try to dress like them, act like them, and show today's people what that was 200 some years ago. So that's important to keep alive, I think. Today I was on the settler side. I fought with the fort today. Just, it's a great bunch of people. It's a very interesting hobby. Of course, this is the Revolutionary War era. And if you ever get started in it, I think you'll really love it. Go to your local library, read history books, and that's helped me also.
My name is Jill Cutler. I live in Harrodsburg, Kentucky, and I live near Old Fort Harrod State Park, which is a gorgeous place. I call it the front yard for all of Harrodsburg and Mercer County. And I've been a history teacher. I love history. I grew up on a farm, so some of this is not that far-fetched for me. I think people would love to be reenactors or do some living history because it gets you immersed in it. You're not just viewing it, you're actually getting to experience it. And if you just have children that love to play or play act, it's just plain fun to do. Who doesn't want to dress up and have some fun for the weekend? I also love camping, so it's perfect to go camping as well. And sometimes I get to drag my mom out with me too. So it's a very fun thing to do. I encourage folks to do it. I do very simple things. We do food drawing at home and food processing in this way at home. So we're always looking and researching into ways and the things that they ate before, because you never know, we need to eat these again. These are highly nutritious, they're medicinal, and I think it's just a very fun thing to do as a hobby. So yeah, please take a look and see some of the things that we've got. I think all history is important for the saying most people have heard before, those who do not learn history are destined to repeat it. All the time you're learning from your mistakes. It's the same thing. We want to learn what we've done well. We want to learn what we've done poorly. We want to learn our history because it's part of our ancestry, but we also want to learn our history because it has secrets to unlock things in our future. It's so easy to forget things that now look unimportant, but now we look back and go, oh, this is how they took care of things before. We can do that again, and there's just complete value in it. At every way you look, there's value in it.
Hi, I'm Duke Smith from Owensboro, Kentucky. I really got into the living history by accident. I started hanging out with some friends that were into flintlock rifles and going to the CLA show in Lexington. And anyway, one thing leads to another, and you end up with accoutrements and guns and knives and tents and sleeping bedrolls. And then I meet a fellow from down in Columbia, Ken Hill, and I start shooting with him and guys like Jeff Fox here that's with me. And one thing leads to another, and so Ken says, hey, I'm going to be set up at Logan Station a 3 weeks ago, and you ought to come down. I said, well, all right. He said, you get to shoot some Indians. And I said, well, I've never shot any Indians. That sounds like fun. So anyway, that's why I'm here at Harrodsburg today. So new to it and really enjoy it. I love history, and since getting into the black powder culture, I've learned a multitude of things about the history of Kentucky and as well as the expansion to the west. So anyway, Jeff here is one of my shooting buddies from Columbia. Ken and Richard Phelps alternate every month, the first Sunday afternoon they have a shoot. So I think history is important because it's, you know, it's there. There's been a lot of trying to eliminate history, and without knowing your history, you can repeat the bad parts of it pretty easily. And there's so much out here that is fascinating, and to find out just in the last year, I learned about John Swift's silver and how that, there's a little research for you folks watching. Figure out the story on John Swift's silver and it'll amaze you. So during Revolutionary War times, but get into history. That's all I can say about it.
Hi, my name is Matt Ward. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. We've been a member of Butler's Rangers since 1998. I'm here with my brother and my son and 15 more people. Some of them are natives. We represent the British faction in Kentucky. I think it's important for people to remember where they came from. More importantly, if we forget our past, it doesn't turn out well. I find history fascinating. Didn't in high school, but I love it now that I'm older. We are encampment on the hill. And if you want to come up and see us, we're up there. There's a lot of us. We're under the British flag.
My name is Jake Hill. I've been doing reenacting here with the fort for probably 6 or 7 years, maybe longer. I'm from Adair County, Kentucky. We have horses here this weekend. I'm the owner of the horses. We bring them out, we teach horse history, we let kids, family, everybody pet them. We we have a fun weekend. We fight Indians, and we have a good time.
My name is Harry Mills. I'm from Berea, Kentucky. I've been doing these reenactments for about 30 years. Started this thing many, many years ago and thoroughly enjoy doing this thing. It's just a hobby.
It's important to teach living history. So seems like nowadays so many people are just forgetting the history, and it's not good. So we come out here just to teach the history so people can, like here, we relive it. Maybe not to the bitter core, but we relive it so people can get a better idea on how people back then would have lived and how they would have went about their daily lives.
I think it's extremely important for the same reasons he said it was. We believe that we may show and tell and explain to people what they may not see in their ordinary daily life, such as in the school classrooms today. A lot of this stuff is not taught, and we feel it's extremely important, especially young people, to have some idea of where things started at and why things are the way they are today. But basically, it is really the history that we want to express to people what history is all about.
We're just settlers. We ain't portraying anybody particular. When we go to other forts and reenactments across the state, we may portray other people. At the Battle of Blue Licks, I portray Israel Boone, but most of the time we just settlers living here at the fort.
We're trying to recreate a time period here in early Kentucky history. Fort Harrod, as you know, was the first fort built in the state of Kentucky, 1774, and a year later, Fort Boonesboro was established over there. And then there was that fort at what is now known as Stanford, Fort Logan over there. Those were called the three triangles of forts in the state of Kentucky in the old days. And Mr. Boone did indeed visit each and every one of these forts during his lifetime. I've read in many places where he visited Fort Harrod here to speak with his old friend Jim Harrod. That was a quote unquote in a book that I read.
My name is Sam Riley. I'm from Bloomfield, Kentucky, and I've been doing this about 8 years now. Living history is important to me because it's a good way to learn skills that help you in everyday situations. Life and technology has made things so easy on us that we've forgotten how to live and survive otherwise. And I've found skills that I've learned here literally helpful in my everyday life. History is important to me because it's a lot of lessons learned and experiences that have already been had that can keep you from making those mistakes again in the future.
My name's Brett Burns. I'm from Booneville, Kentucky, and that's southeastern Kentucky for us. I've been doing living history about 6 to 8 years, counting our breaks and our different events that we've been to. I'm really passionate about living history and all the things that it brings to life for students. By trade, I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, and seeing what history is in the books and how students learn and interact with that, and then having them come out in the field and really bring it to life with demonstrations, seeing life encampments, battle reenactments, and the things that form this state and ultimately this country, I'm really passionate about, and that's why I do living history. History is important because it's our entire life we're always surrounded by human nature and the way people that interact with each other. So as history continues, we relive a lot of those same mistakes that we've made in the past. If we don't examine what's happened historically, we can't look into the future, and we fall short into those same mistakes over and over again. So that's why I'm really important to me with history and the way that works and how the mechanics of building a country and maintaining a country happen. I'm here with my family. I have my wife and daughter. My daughter's 2, she's just an infant. My best friend and his family, and we do this together as a group, and we're just one big family unit. There's 7 of us that come out to these events. I'm really passionate about the outdoors. I'm really passionate about these types of events, and for those people out there that are a little nervous about trying something like that, you're interested in history, but you feel like it may be far out, come on out and join us. They're the most welcoming people you'll ever be around. You'll get to learn a lot about the history of the state you live in or the history of the state that you're visiting, and you'll just have a great time.
Yeah, I'm Jessica Darnell. I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I've been reenacting and doing museum interpretation for the last 22 years. I was actually the first in my family to start doing it. I wasn't born into it like my daughter was. I started volunteering at Cincinnati History Museum and Sharon Woods Heritage Village Museum when I was in my teens. To me, it's important because we learn from our past, you know, whether it's mistakes or victories, triumphs. It's all important and it all comes together to try to show us where we're going.
Wow, that was informative and fun. I hope it encourages you and your family to take the time to attend a reenactment or living history event in your area. What better way to connect to our past and have a better understanding of what our ancestors lived through? What do you think? Did you learn something like I did? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We will continue to be on location at these events and interview the participants, so look for more videos like this one. And remember, family tree nuts. Let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.